This is the wildest bike I own, and it's not just because of the crazy paint scheme. There's a hidden detail that makes it incredibly special. Not to mention the massive mistake I made while making this custom bike, which I am reluctantly going to reveal to you with the hopes that it helps you from making the same mistake. This is a 2016 Stinner Refugio, which at the time was a more capable cross bike because the term gravel hadn't quite taken hold in the culture, which is reflected by several things in the build. For example, the SRAM Force 2x group set. 1x wasn't even an option at the time for drop bar bikes. This one's set up with a 34 to 50 in the front and an 11 to 28 in the back.
And it's mechanical. There was no electronic shifting back then.
That's right. Back when you had to memorize your friend's phone number and cigarettes were healthy. Although it does have hydraulic disc brakes. I've often been quoted as saying, one of my greatest life achievements is living through the advent of disc brakes on bikes. Nothing greater. Here's a bit of embarrassing truth. I don't think I've ever actually bled these brakes. I don't know if I should be ashamed of that or proud of it. I think it's a little bit of both. Always raining. All right, this week's topic of discourse, custom bikes. Into it, weird experiences, on the fence. Let's share that knowledge. All right, this is a cool story about how this build came to be. Aaron Stinner, who, I think you can figure that one out, he mentioned that when they were trying to figure out who to do this project with, someone at Stinner mentioned that they should do it with their friend who was Natus Copus. This is the greatest compliment I've ever received in my life. He's like, who's Natus? We should do it with Dustin. To this day, that one blows my mind. I love you, Aaron. I went to Santa Barbara and actually painted this at their facilities. It was amazing. It took a long time, but it was done with their very professional in-house paint setup. That was all James. Thanks, buddy. Fun fact, every bit of white on this, I had to go over it twice so that we could actually see it. Yeah, that was fun. Not only did they have painting in-house, at the time, they also had Jones wheels, which is why I was able to paint the wheels with the bike. Very cool touch. R.I.P. Jones. So these are Jones deep dish carbon fiber hoops set up on ruby red Chris King hubs. And it's got a matching Chris King headset.
Matching K-Edge Garmin mount.
It's always nice when it all makes sense. Hey, if you're into custom bikes and guys that cut their own hair, feel free to subscribe. We'll talk about one, but not the other. It's got Shimano XT pedals, Ritchie Carbon Zero setback seat post, set up with a Selle Italia Superflow SLR saddle. I have like 5 of these saddles. I don't even know what's in that saddlebag. Let's look at that. I do actually ride this bike. Saddlebag has an actual patch kit, a rubber tube, a boot, and that's about it. In fact, that is it.
I should probably carry a plug.
Good a segue as any. And these are set up tubeless with Pirelli Cinturato Gravel Hard. These measure out to 40 millimeters, which is one of the revealing things about this bike. I think I could maybe get a 45 on this. At the time, nobody was really running very large tires, so the frames didn't necessarily accommodate for it. If this bike was built today, it would absolutely clear 45s, maybe even 50s. Which is funny because 5 millimeters doesn't seem like that much, but it does add up, which is related to, but not the biggest flaw in this bike. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Do I need a haircut again? It's got a carbon Envy fork, which I kind of like that we put shred on it. Just kind of a little bit of personality. At the time, I was still doing Cadence, which is a cycling apparel brand that I founded in 2005. And this build was a project that coincided with a pop-up that we did on Abbot Kinney in Los Angeles. One of the other cool projects I did with Cadence was these handlebars. This is a Ritchie Cadence collaboration bar and stem combo that we did. Kind of cool to have your own bits and bobs. This bike also inspired a whole kit that I designed with Cadence. Yeah, what a cool bike. This is a multi-tool that's connected to the bottle cage. It's by Toe Peak. And you just spin it over and pop it open when you want to get the tool out. It's kind of cool. It's just always there, which I like. And this is another cool detail. The Silca frame pump that's painted to match the bike, I always loved that. I've always wanted that, and I was finally able to achieve that. And these pumps are insanely functional.
I just couldn't help myself.
Okay, the most incredible thing about this bike is not the fact that it was made in America, it's not the fact that it's a custom bike, or that it has a crazy paint job. It is the fact that it's titanium. Yeah, the dream material covered in the most obnoxious paint job you could imagine. It's like a secret. People just assume it's steel. Unlike steel, titanium is extremely light, which is what makes it a wonder material. Compliance of steel, lightness of carbon. Best of both worlds. I mean, it's like kind of a flex to paint your titanium bike. Although I don't know if it's as much of a flex when the paint job is louder than a titanium bike. And this thing weighs in exactly as it is right now, just under 22 pounds, which, perfect. And it rides like a dream. That's the titanium. Super light, super comfortable, and it never rusts. The give and take is it's not a cheap material and it's difficult to work with, which results in a high price tag. I do ride this bike on the regular, which is why it's kind of dirty, actually. And I would ride it even more if I'd changed this one thing when we built the bike. What the hell was I thinking? Okay, so the one thing that I wish I would have done to this bike when we first built it up was put mounts for fenders. And because this bike doesn't have fenders, it means I don't ride it for more than half the year. Even with the limited tire size, I would still ride this bike more with fenders. Not to mention, it's titanium and it won't rust. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. So for anybody thinking about getting a custom bike, I would encourage you as much as possible to think through all the use cases you imagine yourself doing with that bike. And I know it's not possible to think of every single thing, but I'm also not suggesting you add every single bell and whistle. A design that tries to do everything well does nothing well. It's a reminder to me to do the best that I can at any given moment, and if I make a mistake, I'll be able to learn from that and do better next time. And to get a true understanding of what it's like to do big miles, I'm talking the biggest ride I've ever done on this bike, in this video, with Ron, in the summer, mixed terrain. Yeah, that bike, spicy.